Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Gentlemanly Podcast with me, Troy Francis. Once again, we are in my private members club in London, and I think there's going to be a party quite soon because I'm recording this quite late. So if lots of loud music starts playing and people start coming in and trying to do outrageous things in here, then apologies, but hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully we'll be able to get this episode in the can before then. So look, what I want to do today, and by the way, for those of you who don't know me, I am a dating coach. I help guys with relationships and with all manner really of sort of life issues, rebuilding your life, transforming yourself, becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. Okay, so in this video, what I want to talk about, without being too woo-woo, and this is going to be tricky, is manifestation. This is the art of manifestation like a gentleman, okay? And I've actually got some notes on this one, so bear with me a little bit. But we're going to go through this. And here's the thing, right? So the idea of manifestation has obviously been out there for quite a long time. I mean, we've seen things like the book The Secret. Obviously, that was made into a movie, extremely successful. If you're on Instagram, which you probably are, you're going to see loads and loads of sort of posts about manifestation and just believe, and you're going to get the things that you need, and you're going to get the things you want and everything else. And as I say, the problem with it is it can appear to be incredibly woo-woo. It can seem to the more scientific amongst you, and I know that's quite a few of you because that tends to be some of our core clients, and to be people who are sort of, we're science majors or work in computing or work in data or whatever, very logically minded people. It can seem a little bit woo-woo, but, and this is the big thing, but I know from personal experience that it actually works, or at least it works to an extent. Now, like with anything, of course, this isn't to say that you just abdicate all responsibility and you imagine yourself having this incredibly gilded life, this wonderful dating life, this romantic life, this wonderful partner, and you're just going to get it. Obviously, you need to do the work. It's the same thing with money, it's the same thing with business, it's the same thing with sports, learning a musical instrument, like any of this stuff. You're still going to have to do the work, but there is huge value in imagining yourself and really visualizing yourself and feeling yourself to be in the position that you want to be already, okay? And as a quick tip, even if you want to stop the video now, just as a very quick tip, one thing that I do, because I find visualization quite difficult, but what I am quite good at is writing, okay? So what I will often do is do journaling, and I will journal in the present tense as if I've already got the things that I want, okay? And I remember some years ago, actually, I wrote, I think it was actually a CV. I actually wrote a CV for somebody. I don't know if I sent it off or not, but I basically wrote this CV, and it was kind of, it was before I'd had much work experience. It was before I really had accomplished very much in my career, or indeed in my personal life, because at the time I was just out partying the whole time and not really doing very much at all. And I wrote this CV as if I had not only achieved a certain degree of success in my career, but I also was doing some really interesting things outside of that. When you put your personal interests and you talk about, the stuff that you've done, the things that you're interested in, the things that you've accomplished outside of work. And what was really amazing was a couple of years later, I found that document again and I read through it, and I realised that all of the things that I'd written down and basically lied about at the time, or fabricated somewhat, had actually come true. So all of the things in that document that I'd said that I'd done, a couple of years later, or maybe it was even 18 months later, I actually had done, or I had accomplished. And I'll always remember that because it seemed to me, it could have just been coincidence, right? And I think as well, with visualization, or with thinking about becoming the best version of yourself that you can be, I think we kind of know internally what we're capable of, and we might be holding ourselves back somewhat for whatever reason, fear of success, or just low self-esteem, low confidence, whatever. But it was just really fascinating to me that I'd written down this stuff, and the stuff that I'd written down actually became reality sometime later, without me consciously trying to make it happen. I just sort of followed what I'd always wanted to do anyway. And then a lot of the things on those lists. So, personal interests, like I traveled a lot. I've been to all these different places. I've been to these really cool places. I was into international art movies. I'd written a film script. I'd written a novel, all this kind of stuff. I looked through the list of things and some of the career stuff as well, the amount of money I was earning, stuff like that. I looked through all of it and it had all come true. In fact, I'd exceeded some of the stuff that I'd written down. So that sort of unintentionally showed me the power of this stuff. And I'm not saying the two things are entirely related, because obviously, as I said, you still need to work on this stuff, right? You still need to do the work, as people say. But just imagining yourself in that position of having already achieved the stuff is really, really powerful. And so that's why I want to make this video. And I want really to talk also about just the power of thinking big. In fact, I think there's actually a book out called that, isn't there? Or something similar to that. I'll try and find it. I'll try and link it below if I get the time or I remember. But I mean, basically, I think one of the big problems out there, and this is the case with a lot of the guys that we teach who get into contact with us, is that they're thinking too small, okay? And they are not really, they're too humble. In fact, if anything, they've got low self-esteem. That's often the problem. But certainly they're thinking too small, and they can't envisage a life that is bigger. And in this video, of course, obviously we talk about dating and relationships a lot here, but I'm also talking more generally about having an expansive life, traveling, staying in fancy places, going to nice, wonderful hotels all over the world and this kind of thing, right? Most people tend to, I believe, think too small. They can't envisage themselves as being that guy, okay? And I would say that you need to reverse that. You need to immediately start thinking of yourself as that guy. And here's the weird thing, right? It's not even just the people who haven't made it financially who think this way. We actually know people who are multimillionaires who still think this way, even though they're sitting on a bunch of money and they could be living effectively like a James Bond style life, and they're just not, because they don't see themselves as that guy. And obviously, this isn't primarily about money, but people have different relationships with money. Some people prefer to be very frugal and not spend money. I'm not saying, splash the cash and just do outrageous things for the sake of it, but your life could certainly be a lot bigger than it probably is. And that includes, but is not limited to, the dating stuff, okay? You could be having a much more prolific dating life, or you could be engaging with a partner who is of a much higher quality than you imagine, because you're thinking too small. And often, one of the things that comes into this is, cheers, bit of sparkling water. One of the things that comes into this is people who live in small towns. So somebody left a comment on my YouTube yesterday about the style video, and he was saying, what if you live in a small town in Oregon? And it's like, well, I mean, to be honest, if you're living in a small town outside Oregon or outside London or Manchester or wherever it is in the world, if you really want to, make things happen, firstly, you want to get out of the small town. I mean, that's the obvious thing. Now, for some people, that's difficult for logistical reasons or for family reasons or work reasons or whatever. So, okay, fine. But the first thing is you need to expand your horizons. Now, my family was from London, but I wasn't born in London. And we lived a lot of the time in this sort of suburban kind of area outside of London, although I spent a lot of time here. But it was no coincidence that I ended up living here in the end, because I knew instinctively that it was going to be the best place for me, not only for work opportunities and networking opportunities, but it was also going to be the best place for me for romantic encounters as well, and everything else, right? I mean, why not? So I'm not saying everybody in the UK should move to London, because it's not going to be everyone's bag, and that's fine. But in general, okay, the exciting stuff is happening where the movers and shakers are, okay? So if you're in America, really, I would argue you want to be in New York, you want to be in Miami, or maybe Vegas, or one of the bigger cities. You don't really, if you want to achieve a lifestyle of quality and of excellence, okay, and the kind of stuff we talk about on the Gentlemanly podcast, if you want to achieve that kind of lifestyle, then really you need to be in a bigger place where there's more sophisticated stuff going on, or you need to be traveling, okay? And that's the other way of doing it. So like James Tusk, for example, who I work with, he doesn't live in London full time, but he does travel full time. When he travels, I mean, yeah, he'll go to second tier cities and stuff sometimes, but a lot of the time, you know, like recently he was in Sao Paulo, right? Which I believe is the biggest city in Brazil. I mean, absolutely massive. Very, very high quality in terms of the, you know, the places there, the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, obviously, you know, the dating opportunities as well. There's just so much going on there. So you want to position yourself in places where the action is happening if you really want to level up and live the kind of lifestyle that we're talking about on this gentlemanly podcast. Because this is not about, this whole podcast, this whole concept is about living life to the full. It's about living that James Bond experience to the greatest extent that you can. Now, obviously, you know, we're not all realistically going to be Daniel Craig driving an Aston Martin and wearing a Tom Ford tuxedo, but we can certainly get nearer. We can certainly have a bigger experience in life. But I would say that where you position yourself is important. And the other thing is, and this is coming on to my next point now, is that it's really good to go to places where you can observe what people with money and people with influence and people with power and people with great social networks are doing, because that makes you aware of what is possible. So, for example, I'm sitting now in a fairly exclusive members club in a fairly exclusive part of London, and I'm surrounded by people who are in different industries. They're doing different things with their lives. They're relatively successful. They're having interesting lives. They're doing interesting stuff. Okay, people are obviously members here for a variety of different reasons. And there's a networking event going on later, actually, which I'm probably not going to attend because I need to go and do some work. But it's, you know, those opportunities are out there. Okay, and it's not even necessarily that you need to network with these people. It's just that you need to be in the vicinity, right? You need to see the possibilities. Okay, and it's the same thing with the dating stuff as well. I mean, if you're hanging around with a group of mates and nobody's really doing anything and nobody's really sort of pushing themselves socially, then you're not going to improve because you've got no marker of what is possible. Whereas because through my work and the stuff that I've done, I've spent time with, you know, some incredibly skilled social operators and business operators as well, and multimillionaires, okay? It's meant that the level of what I can see is possible and the level of my expectation of myself has increased exponentially, okay? And I truly, truly believe that there is huge value in that, okay? Because if you can't see something, then you can't imagine it. And if you can't imagine it, you're not going to be able to do it. I mean, even Alex Hormozy, who is the least woo-woo person probably on the planet, recently on his show was talking about how it's really worth going to, you know, an upmarket mall where they sell expensive handbags and things like this, because when you walk around and they're selling handbags for $10,000 or £10,000 or even more, you know, Hermes handbag, right? You know, they go for multiple tens of thousands of pounds in some instances, right? The high-end ones. And obviously watches, cars, all this kind of stuff. It's not that you necessarily want to get that stuff. It's not, I mean, you might be quite minimalist. You might not want that kind of stuff, but you need to know what is possible. You need to understand what other people are doing so that you can see it. And then even if you don't achieve that level, you're more likely to achieve a level that is somewhat closer to it. Because the imagination is very, very powerful in all of these things, okay? And again, this includes the dating stuff as well. What is possible with your relationship life, your dating life, is also very much a product of your imagination. If you can't imagine yourself as being that guy who can walk into the room, who can walk into the networking event and have presence and have, command attention, then it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to do it in real life. Whereas, as the old saying goes, you know, what we can imagine can be achieved. Okay, if we can imagine it, we can achieve it. But I believe that actually having examples, having real life examples, is super important in that process. There is some scientific backing for this as well. There have been various studies, and obviously you've probably read similar books to me where, I mean, things like books about NBA players where they talk about visualizing the game and visualizing winning the game, okay, before the game itself. Very, very powerful. So, top sports people do this, right? It's not just this kind of thing that I'm just making up. It's actually a real thing. Now, how you do that visualization is going to be down to you and your proclivities, your particular sensory, the way you respond best to sensory experiences. For me personally, as I say, I think writing is very powerful for me. I do sometimes do visualization where I'm actually in my head trying to imagine like the movie in my head, and that has also worked for me as well. But I think that surrounding you, and this is also where the old cliche, surround yourself with the 5 people who are, the 5 people you surround yourself with are going to be the sum of your what you're likely to achieve, and also your network is your net worth, and those kinds of things that we read a lot on social media. There is some truth in that, okay? The places that you go, the people that you spend time with, okay, are gonna either raise or lower your expectations of what is possible for you. And we only have a very short time on this planet, okay? So you might as well spend time in places or with people who have achieved great things. Now, great things for you might mean something different than it does for me, and I don't want this to come across as being like overly materialistic. I'm not saying this is about owning a Lambo or owning a Ferrari or going to expensive places or whatever. I mean, it's your life, your lifestyle. You can do what you want, but I think the general principles are very important. Now, there is a saying that's been attributed to various different people, which is smell the leather, okay? And what that basically means is if you are somebody who would like to have an expensive car, then what you should do is go to a dealership, get that car, take it for a test drive, or actually get into the car and smell the leather, like really like experience what it's like to be in that car, to have that car, so that you can really internalize it, so that you can really see how it would be, okay? This is why I like to go to relatively expensive places when I'm out and about. So in London, we'll often go to like hotel bars and things like that. I often try to stay in nice places as well. When we travel, we try to go to, the nicer places. Obviously, if you're traveling to a less expensive country, that's going to be easier. Somewhere like London is very expensive, but you could certainly go to somewhere like the Ritz, or you could go to Claridge's, or you could go to the Dorchester, or any of these places, and just go and have a cup of tea, or the Bulgari Hotel. Go and have a cup of tea, go and have a drink, sit in the foyer, look at the people around you, see how they're living, see the way that they are conducting themselves, see what is possible. I was here the other day and I heard some people having a conversation, and they were talking about private equity, right? I didn't obviously hear any of the details, and I wouldn't reveal it anyway, but you could see that these people were successful and they were serious, and that stuff is happening out there. Money is abundant, okay, as are romantic opportunities and all the rest of it. So I think experiencing this stuff for yourself is so important, okay? And I hope this is making some sense, and I hope you're able to sort of relate this back to the dating stuff. If you're not, then put a comment below, or email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and I'll sort of talk you through it. We may do some more videos. If this one is popular, we might do some more videos on this where we take it a little bit more specific to the dating relationship stuff. But basically, you've got to be able to imagine yourself as being that guy, if you're going to be that guy, if that makes sense. So this is why when we taught our course The Edge, part of it was creating an archetype for yourself and then living that archetype, okay? And fake it till you make it gets a lot of stick, I think, and people think it's a bit of a cop-out, and it kind of is, but at the same time it isn't, as long as you're doing the work as well in order to get to where you want to be. But when you're in a social scenario, you've got to act as if you're the man, right? You've got to act as if you are already where you want to be. Now, it might be that there's still a lot of work to be done, and let's be honest, all of us have got work that needs to be done, because self-improvement is a constant process that continues throughout your life. But when you're out there, you want to be acting as though you're already that guy. You've already done what needs to be done and achieved what needs to be achieved. So you want to become the man before he exists. Okay, you want to go to the places where you would like to eventually end up, staying or living. You want to experience a bit of that lifestyle before you've necessarily got the income or the resources to do so. Okay, you want to be hanging around the kind of people that you would like to become, so that you can see yourself in that role and it becomes natural and normal to you. Because unless it's natural and normal to you, it's going to seem very alien, and then it's going to seem impossible. And if it seems impossible, mentally you're holding yourself back. Okay, let's check the notes here. So don't worry about it being realistic. As has been said many times before, it's better to be delusionally self-confident than not. Okay, so what I would recommend is that you think about wherever you are now, and everybody's coming at this from different sort of precipices, right? We get some very high value guys who come to us for help. We also get people who are, who have more work to do. But wherever you are now, instead of thinking about that, instead of focusing on, well, there's so much work to be done, there's so much, I need to do this, I need to do that, blah, blah, blah. Think about your potential, think about what's possible, and also reward yourself for the small wins as well. Reward yourself for the process of self-transformation, okay? So you've gone to the gym today, you've done 20,000 steps, great, okay? You might not be at your ideal weight yet, but you are working on it, you are getting there, and you know that you can get there, okay? And belief in yourself, belief in your potential, if you hold that and you radiate that, that's going to be very powerful, and it's going to communicate to other people, and that's going to draw those people to you, and then that's going to open more doors for you and create more opportunities for you. Okay, God, I hope this isn't sounding too woo-woo. You have to tell me in the comments below, man. I mean, if we'll have to see how this one goes down, but I genuinely believe that there is a lot in this, and I'm gonna, if people have negative comments about this, I'm going to come out with some scientific studies to back this up a little bit, because I think it's super important. Okay, and it's certainly helped me a lot in my own personal life. So I'm just having a look at the notes here. The world belongs to men and women who don't ask for permission, but who go out there and do what they want to do. Okay, but in order to do that, you need to know what's possible. And in order to envisage yourself in that position of having achieved great things, you need to see that other people are doing it, and then it becomes normal, okay? And that's really how anything that I've achieved in my life, it's been because I've observed other people doing it, and I've thought, if that person can do it, I can do it as well, okay? So, again, smell the leather, get out there, go to the places that you would like to spend time regularly. If there's an amazing city near to you and you'd really like to live there, but it's super expensive, just go and spend time there. Okay, normalize it. Look at the people, look at how they're acting. Recognize that they're just regular people like you. If they can do it, then you can do it, right? If somebody else can become a millionaire, you can become a millionaire, right? If somebody else can overcome their fear of social encounters, then you can overcome your fear of social encounters, okay? But you've got to see it happening, and you've got to spend time around these people and in these environments in order to normalize it, so that you recognize what's possible for you, okay? I think that will probably do for now, because there is going to be a party starting here, probably a networking event with some pretty high value people. I may stay for a bit, I may not, I don't know, I've got some work to do. But as I say, surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to do. Put yourself in the environments that you want to see yourself spending time in. If you want to make money, go to expensive places and observe people with money and recognize, just look at how they act, understand that they are normal people too, and that what they've achieved you can also achieve, okay? Normalize this stuff, and it's going to make it much easier for you. Okay, so that is my little rant on gentlemanly manifestation. It is a topic I want to return to. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to talk to me about your situation, or you want coaching, or you've got any questions or anything, just either DM me on one of my socials or drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and I'll see you guys again very soon. And by the way, you should get on my email list, okay? I'm going to put a link, there is a link in fact below, in the description to the email list. Get on the email list, because in this current day and age, you never know with things like YouTube channels and so on what's going to happen, how long they're going to exist for, and so on and so forth. So make sure you're following me on all my socials, which are basically X, Instagram and Substack, and make sure you get on my email list as well, so we can keep in contact. through one of those channels. And hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.